Hello everyone and welcome on De Papier de Rêve channel. I'm Ursula and today I will be painting with you a bouquet of roses and carnation. As you have been able to see it in the intro of this video is a bit different that I'm used to do. Right now I'm at a florist in Barcelona and I'm painting in the shop of the florist. And I was invited to paint here just because I bought a bucket of flower a few weeks ago and I made a live on my French channel with it. And they saw it and they were very happy with it. So they proposed me to do this another time in the shop directly. And I accept it because I think it's very fun to do things like that. And it's pushing me a bit outside my comfort zone. And I think it's very interesting. As I'm not at home, your point of view is a little bit different than you are used to. But I managed to have some different cameras so you will be able to see what I'm doing quite clearly, I think. And I've decided to not speed this video up so that you are able to see all my movement in real time. So I'm starting this painting by placing some reds because I want the roses in this bucket to be the star of the show. So I'm starting to add them on the paper and then I'm going around with some foliage, some other flower that are white carnation. And for now you cannot see anything very clearly just because I like to do my first layer very blurry. I'm focusing my work on placing the right color at the right place, and if everything is blurry and bleeding in each other colors, it's totally okay. I will be able to add some details a bit later. So I have these red roses and I've used Winsor red to mark their place. I have a lot of foliage and I work the foliage with nickel azure yellow and indigo. And I also have some eucalyptus branches in this bucket. And for the color of the eucalyptus, I work with the green I had in my palette mixed with a little bit of manganese blue to give this hue a little bit different, a little bit more cold and almost turquoise to it. And as you can see, everything is really soft and blurry for now, but I think it's a great start for a painting because I can always add details later, but it's a little bit more difficult to add softness to it. My first layer is totally done and dry, so I can start the second layer by adding some details. And I want to start with the roses, because roses are a little bit more difficult for me. It's a flower that is very particular, it's emblematic, and I have to find some ways to make you think about roses when you saw them. As you can see, my first layer has dried quite lighter than when I put the color first on, but that's totally okay. I'm able to add some more color right now, and I think it's quite nice to have this opportunity to add color and layer on that kind of flower, because it's better to go slow with the roses and add some details and details and details. It will make the flower a little bit more realistic that way. So I'm focusing my work right now to make my brush strokes quite similar to how the petals are curling into the flower and how they are attached to the flower. I try to think about the way the petals are so that I can mimic this with my brush on the paper. And I use quite a lot of pigment, always Winsor red for now, so that I can have quite a strong hue in this second layer for the roses. And I try also to add some softness again in this second layer. I'm adding a lot of color and then I'm blending some area out so that I have hard edges and soft edges on each of the flowers. And now I need to add some depth and some shadows into the flower. And for that, I'm using a mix of Winsor red and indigo. It makes a mix, quite a violet, almost brown mix. But I think it's a nice color for the shadow because it's a little bit muted, but it's still with the color I've used for most of the flower, the Winsor red. And I'm not waiting that the Winsor red I've put first on the paper is dry before adding this shadow color, just because I wanted to fuse and diffuse in the red for a softer effect. And once I'm happy with my roses for now, I will add some details on the vegetation, the foliage I have around the roses, and I'm starting with this branch of eucalyptus. And for the color, I'm using still indigo because I want it to be the link in all the color in my buckets, but mixed with a little bit of manganese blue, just because I want this cold feeling to the eucalyptus. The color of the eucalyptus is very particular, and I like the contrast between this turquoise color against the red of the roses. I think it adds a lot of joy and power to this bucket. So I will continue this second layer by adding more details in all the branches of eucalyptus and then add some texture into the foliage so that you can see the foliage a little bit more clearly. And I'm not waiting between each element to dry, just because I want some diffusion of color into each element in order to make this bucket a little bit more unify, and that's some way to do it with color fusing into one another. There is one thing that is totally missing now on my paper. It's the white carnation. There is some white carnation in this bucket, and I've kept them out of my painting for now, just because I wanted to adjust their position in function of the other elements I had in my bucket. But now it's time to define them, and for that I'm using the same mix of colors that I've used for all the foliage, some indigo mixed with nickel azo yellow. As these carnations are white, I'm not painting the white, but I'm painting around them in order to make them appear on my paper. And I focus my brushwork in order to make them appear quite crumpled, because carnation flower look really crumpled. And even the flower is white, I'm using the same mix of color inside the flower, nickel azo yellow and indigo, in order to make all the crumple look, but really with a lot of water this time, just because I want a really soft color inside. And I will come back a little bit later to add some darker color in a third layer. Second layer has totally dry, and I can start the last details and the last touches I want in this watercolor painting. And again, I'm starting with the roses. They have dried a little bit lighter again. I know that this Winsor red is a little bit tricky to work because it loses a little bit of its color each time I dry it. But this time I packed the pigment into my brush and I use very little water in order to have the most powerful red I can on this last layer. And again, I'm trying to work quite slowly and very thoughtfully. I thought a lot about how the petals are curling and how they are placed in the rose so that I can mimic it with my brush again. I'm doing almost the same work as in my second layer, but with a lot more delicacy, and I'm trying to get some fine lines into the roses so that they are a little bit more defined and still a lot of I want still a lot of expressivity into it. And I try to keep also some hard edges and soft edges, like I said in the second layer, because this adds some softness and some poetic feel to it. And the flower I'm working right now is behind a carnation. So I will work with the red of the flower to create the texture of the carnation underneath, so that you can see that they are combined, they are unified into a bucket, and they are not a single element on my paper, but they are a group of elements. Now that my roses are quite red, I need to add more shadows and more darker color into the center of the roses in order to give them a little bit more depth and a little bit more realism, even though I'm working very expressively here. And for that, I'm using a mix of Winsor red and indigo as my second layer. I'm always using the same color here. And I'm adding this darker color into the flower without waiting for it to dry first, because I want this smooth and I want the color to fuse and make more smooth line. And as they are quite packed with pigment right now, I'm using a brush that are a little bit damped in order to make the color move a little bit and soften some edges. I'm almost at the end of my painting now. I've added some more details in the foliage in order for you to know a little bit more what's in this bucket and make it quite unified. And for this unified feel, I'm using a trick that is to repeat some color or some texture in a different area of the painting. For example, the color of the eucalyptus branch is in some different area of the painting. And I've also used nickel as a yellow on the background of the carnation, but I will add also some splashes of this nickel as a yellow in other parts of the painting in order to help your eye to go through the painting and find some way to guide it. It was a very fun painting to make because I was not in my habitual environment and that's quite a challenge also. But I think that it worked really great at the end, and it was also really fun to film and edit this video because it was quite different that I'm used to. If you like this new format of video, please tell me in the comment because I have some more idea where I can film in exterior or in plein air, and it will be quite a nice challenge for me to paint in these areas. So it will not be every week like that, but sometimes if you like it, I will be glad to make a video like this one. And this painting is totally done. I just have to sign it and that's it. And this video is also ending. I hope you like it. And please check the blog post for more information about this picture and to find also all the supplies I've used for this painting. And tell me, of course, what you think in the comments. See you soon.